system. You have a system which, as far as I know, is now pretty much the custom in small claims courts, which is that you have to pay a small fee. It could be nominal, 50 quid, possibly 100 quid. Now, if you're on benefits and you are being seriously monstered by the press, there might be a system for some kind of reimbursement process. But I don't think it's beyond the realms of man or editor to come up with a scheme which says we want you to put a little bit of money where your mouth is in order to get rid of those claims which are completely trivial or scurrilous.
Has it been proposed?
Sorry?
Has it been proposed?
Well, it was actually proposed by me, but I don't have a column in the Sun. If you want to put it forward, then please, just let me say one more thing. I want to come back to this question about who should decide, Parliament or the courts, which was actually one of the big debates around the whole super injunction issue. It's absolutely crucial. It does actually come back to this question of the public interest. What is the public interest? Who defines the public interest? I would much prefer the public interest to be defined by Parliament. We're very happy to trash and denounce members of Parliament, our elected representatives, as being lazy or noses in troughs or whatever we want to say about. Actually, the vast majority of them are there to do a job, which is to represent us. If you believe in democracy, then that is the place where you actually agree what represents the public. And frankly, it's not difficult. Read the Ofcom code, read the BBC code. There are plenty of codes around which actually define in very clear terms what the vast majority of the public would understand to be in the public interest.
Maybe I think that you don't trust the supine politicians any more than you trust the puffed up corporations.
But I agree with Steve, it's a very, very important question. Who decides what is in the public interest is a key question in the middle of this issue, and it was what, in a way, it was what Leveson kind of kicked off his inquiry with, wasn't it, when he asked the question, who guards the guardians? Who is going to decide, or as his top QC put it, who is going to decide what is and is not in the public interest? And I would like, I thought someone should have said to Leveson, when he said who guards the guardians, who judges the judges? Why should it, and this was the mistake in the first place of Cameron and all those went along with it, why should it be put in the hands of a Lord Chief Justice to make proposals on the future of an allegedly, of a Lord Justice, sorry, to put proposals on the future of an allegedly free press, any more than it should be up to politically driven MPs and government ministers. You see, that even a public interest defence, when it sounds like a good idea, it means that it's in the hands of the courts to decide what's in the public interest. Well, my point is that the public interest should be, if it exists at all as a phrase, and I'm very suspicious of it, because the point about the public interest is this. Here's the public, and here's the public interest. It's always up here somewhere, decided by lawyers and politicians and experts, who will define, and it always has been, they will define what is the public interest. It's never left to the public to decide what's in the public interest. One of the most interesting moments in Leveson, I thought, was when Ian Hislop appeared there and suggested that they shouldn't be a regulated press. There should be a press that's responsible to its readers as well as to criminal law. And he said he hoped that Lord Justice Leveson would invite some News of the World readers to come along to the inquiry and tell them why they had so enjoyed buying that newspaper in their millions. And the shudder of horror that went through the legal and political establishment there gathered at the idea that News of the World readers should be invited to partake of an inquiry into the press, that the public might be invited to partake in a public inquiry, was, I think, extremely telling. What I think is the public interest should be defined by the public. And we ought to hear more of the moral case for a free press, which means that the public, because when you start restricting freedom of expression and a free press, this is my last point, sorry, I'll shut up, you are not only inhibiting the rights of those who write and publish, you are, even more importantly, inhibiting those who read and consume the media. What I believe is the right of people to read everything and judge for themselves. And that's why I think the public interest is something that should be left to the public to decide. And that requires that everything be put in the public arena in the first instance.
Okay, I'd like to come to Brian, who, among other points, might want to deal with this issue about corporatisation. But just kind of going on the way there, was Murdoch right closing the
It's debatable. I think that it wasn't justified by the events, which were the main drivers of those. One, which was the claimed Gordon Brown's son's medical records had been blagged, and the other was Billy Dowler's voicemail had been deleted, neither of which was accurate.
Okay. Brian?
Just to add to that, I thought it was an outrage that he closed the News of the World. I thought that he had a responsibility to reform it. Just a whistle-stop tour through some of these. The gentleman at the back asked about the reducing, would what was happening now reduce partisanship in the newspapers? There is absolutely nothing in the Charter or in any of Leveson's proposals that suggests that opinion should be removed from newspapers. Absolutely not. The insurance solution, it sounds ingenious to me, but I mean, Leveson had a quarter of his inquiry devoted to proposals. I think you may be just a year too late with it. To proposals of that kind, he entertained every sort of idea. An important distinction here about third parties. First of all, third-party complainants can't claim anything. They can complain. That's to say, people can complain because they think there has been a breach of the code of conduct. A code of conduct which will be written by editors and journalists. And with independent input, I'll come back to that. They can't claim anything, so that they can go and make a complaint, but they can't claim money, and they can't impose expense on anybody. The arbitration service is for people who have a cause in law. To say they would go to court if they could afford it, presumably. And indeed, as I said, one of the advantages of arbitration is it's cheap for everybody. We've heard a lot about the First Amendment. Lord Justice Leveson proposed a British First Amendment. We were very keen on it. Unfortunately, we seem to have been the only ones who were very keen on it. The First Amendment, I have to remind you, was a statute. It was passed by the Congress and ratified by the States of the Union. It was a statute. It would be needed, we would need a statute if we were to have a First Amendment in this country. Leveson proposed it and nobody wanted it. Okay. No editor called for it. Just one last point, the public and the public interest and the public define it. Under Leveson, the Code of Conduct, which in its own Press Complaints Commission form included a definition of the public interest. The Code of Conduct would be open to public consultation every 2 years.
Okay, I've got 4 people, I've got 5. So let's, quick points please. Lady there, yes, and then the 2 gentlemen here, then here. And then numbers 4, I missed somebody there. Yeah, there, okay. So you 5, as quickly as you can, please.
The questions already have been very gentlemanly, like what was raised with conduct in the past. And I feel obliged to offer something much more visceral in response. So something that was brutally involved in the Shannon Matthews case, where a child was kidnapped by his relatives, where we were faced with normal journalistic practice and convention of wandering around council estates, offering cash in brown envelopes to poor people of benefits to tell the names of the citizens of that particular child. There is no public interest in this. I think much of what the polemic we've heard today has actually been about defence of lazy journalism conventions.
Yeah. Would you be prepared to add an answer to the question, do you feel that what is being proposed here by those who are now defining reform, does it meet the needs of the problem as you read it?
I'm not sure that it does, and I would agree that it's not necessarily perfect law, but just because something's difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't try and legislate, and more important than that, try and define our values as a society about what it's right to do.
Okay, yes, here.
Okay, so let me just start by saying I have no dogs in this fight. I'm not even in English. Okay, so but the point here is, in reflection to what Nick was saying about the freedom of expression. So my very basic understanding of freedom is my freedoms end where other people's freedoms start. Okay, and if we give the press the absolute freedom, so I don't think this sort of like, you know, this very basic notion of freedom can ever exist. And then you said, okay, so let's let the public decide what's good for them. So I would like you to define what the public is, because it's as big as the public interest. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick point. I haven't followed all this terribly, but I do teach things like cyber politics, and I watch things like the Pirate Party. And in this context, I think the Pirate Party in Sweden actually has an interesting distinction between individuals should be guaranteed privacy, but hierarchy, power structures, corporations, governments, media, public organizations should be subject to a high level of scrutiny. Is it, in this idea of the need to know, the public having a need to know, is this a helpful rule that for private individuals there should be a presumption and a right to privacy? For power structures, etc., there should be an expectation of transparency.
Okay. Yeah.
So far we've been talking about Leveson, but are we not also talking about half of Leveson? Because as far as I'm aware, Part 2, if it ever comes, was supposed to look at criminal conduct in News International and the investigation, or lack of investigation, by the Metropolitan Police. So does the panel have a view on that? Because free speech obviously is intermeshed with a whole range of other hegemonic issues. And do you think there will be more arrests at News International?
Not just there, yes, but yes.
Yes, it's interesting to have a discussion and questions, and all of the speakers haven't mentioned the elephant in the room. You know, the new media. If you want politicians being called paedophiles, if you want children convicted of crimes, photos being circulated, they're there, everyone can find them. Even former children's TV presenters can present them to the Prime Minister on live TV. I mean, how does Leveson be in any form relevant to the way that the public interest is being defined, or what the public is circulating on social media? And arguably, so the public needs to be protected about what they can and can't circulate, because people are getting jailed for jokes about missing girls, which, you know, so there's a level of offence there, but I think Leveson is kind of missing the market. They're missing where most people are giving their information, where they're spreading information, spreading disinformation. So I wonder what the panel think about that big elephant in the room. I think it's not there at all.
Okay, let's start there. I mean, that is undoubtedly, I mean, not only is it the elephant in the room, it's the elephant in Parliament today, isn't it? They're having a go at that one. I must say, I thought when I saw the language of making special provision or noting the issue of non-commercial, not profitable players, that would, you know, take the Guardian out of it, the Times, Independent, as well as bloggers. But the new media issue is clearly very, very important. Brian, I mean, it sometimes feels a bit as if everybody is making up their position on the run about this, rather than, I'm not sure I've heard a convincing, well-thought position about this.
Well, I'm not sure I can promise that, but I'll try. I mean, I think two things. One, I have always thought of Leveson was asked to look into the press. I have always thought that when we use that term, we were all talking about professional journalism outside broadcast, really. The stuff that is already under Ofcom. And I tend to think of the generality of this as affecting the kinds of people who call themselves journalists, particularly if it's paid for or funded in some way. So that's my frame for it, and I think Leveson provides answers for that sort of framework of people. Interestingly, there is an option in the charter, or there's a window in the charter, as it were, for people who are working in small blogging environments to voluntarily set up their own regulator if they choose, and be part of this system. The argument that Ian refers to is how far some of the incentives, the